Hey everybody, me and Buster Green here. Alright, random video of the day. Since the pandemic and the aftermath, a lot of beloved places from my childhood have been going out of business forever, and it's been sad and infuriating. And this week there was this big clickbait story in the news, and I guess this is kind of my own satisfying version of it, that, oh no, a beloved ride, a great adventure is going to close forever. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, what is it? Is it going to be like one of my favorite roller coasters from my childhood, or like literally anything I care about? Well, don't panic everybody. It's actually a complete non-issue. The ride that is broken down forever is the weird old parachute ride. So I guess before I change my mind and get all sentimental about it, I'll start by giving my present day review of this ride based on my entire life of riding it. Quite frankly, I think this is one of the most boring rides in the park. It's kind of a baby ride. Adults can ride it too, but it's still a baby ride. I guess it's family friendly. I don't know, it's slow, it's safe, unless you like jump off it to your doom. It's a more boring, safer version of a Ferris wheel that doesn't make you dizzy. It's just a bench you sit on and it goes in the air and then it slowly goes back down. It's slower than a bicycle. It's essentially just an elevator that goes to nowhere. Anyway, whenever I go to Six Flags, like literally any time in my life, in like the entire time I've lived, I've seen this ride, I've ran it a few times, and no one's ever like thrilled to go on it. Like I never see anyone interested in riding this thing. It's pretty much just like outperformed in like 20 different ways by like 20 other rides. Like there are rides that are just as high, there are rides that are the same thing but faster. Like there's Tower of Terror, and that's literally the same experience but 100 times faster, and like it's cool. So if you guys haven't been following the news lately, the Six Flags company all over the US is in major deep shit after the pandemic because they're like tied to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is deeply in debt. And anyway, so pandemic happened and they basically earned no income and accumulated damage and expenses all through 2020 and 2021. And at the same time, their old management took these like golden parachute severance packages and they left with a large chunk of the company's money, making things even worse. So now new management is in there, the new management is fairly incompetent, and by all accounts, they're not running the company right, they're just trying to undo the pandemic damage as fast as they can to save the park. Anyway, that's another story. Let's go back to the parachute dropper. So yeah, back to that, like, initially I heard this news and I was like, oh, thank God, I don't care about the parachute dropper, that's okay, but then as it turns out, like, I've been talking to other people about it, and it turns out, like, a lot of people actually do care about the parachute dropper. So let me just be, like, a little bit more sentimental and, like, think it over for a few minutes, whether or not I should, like, be more sad about this. Apparently back in the day, almost all the Six Flags had a parachute drop ride like this, but slowly over the years, they've one by one all been destroyed. The second to last one, other than the New Jersey one, was this one in Texas that was blown up almost 10 years ago in a controlled demolition. But that one's gone, and now the New Jersey one was the last one left. So the main reason the ride is closing is a combination of laziness and a lack of ingenuity, because something on the ride broke. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a screw somewhere or some kind of cable. But the point is, because the ride is so goddamn old, they can't get the parts to fix it. Which makes me wonder how actually old this ride is. Is it like 100 years old or 60 years old? Maybe 40 years old? Maybe 20 years old? Honestly, I don't really know, but I kind of want to guess it's like 60 or 100 years old because it seems so retro and old and boring. But as it turns out, it's actually only 40 years old. The parachute dropper was constructed exactly 40 years ago in 1983. But apparently even in 1983, the ride was, at that time, a retro throwback ride. Because the thing of the parachute dropper was, it was apparently created in 1983 as a throwback to the parachute dropper craze of the 1930s. Ironically, a craze that localized in New Jersey. Because once planes became a thing, immediately after planes were a thing, people invented parachutes. And once parachutes were a thing, but before skydiving was a thing, they had parachute towers. And a few of these popped up only in New Jersey in the 1930s to help people figure out how to use parachutes. And they were popularized by Amelia goddamn Earhart, of all people. Now, originally back in the 1930s, these things were terrifying, unsafe towers that people would literally climb up on a ladder to and then jump off the top with their parachute, like it was freaking GTA 4. By the way, speaking of GTA 4, there's a big parachute tower in that game, and the reason for that is a replica of the world's most famous parachute tower, the one in Brooklyn at Coney Island. Now, this one has also had a full and interesting life. Originally created in 1939 for the Flushing Meadows World Fair, 2 years later when the fair was over, it moved to Steeplechase Park in Coney Island. And once again, it was a baby up and down ride, just like the one at Six Flags. And that was all great and good, but Steeplechase Park closed in 1964. Now, what's weird though is according to the public record, even though the park shut down in 1964, for some reason the parachute ride, and only the parachute ride, continued to operate for another 4 years until 1968. Weird, huh? So apparently in 1968, a little girl got stuck on top of it, so the police finally came in and shut it down for good. So then it became like an eyesore on the community. Now, ironically though, the parachute tower in Brooklyn survived to the current day by being both a beloved public landmark and both a threat to humanity, because there was this long back and forth over the years with these two opposing factions that either wanted to fix the tower or destroy the tower. And ironically, what ended up happening was neither of those scenarios, because it was going to cost millions of dollars to destroy the tower because of how large and complicated a structure it was. But on the flip side, it would also take millions of dollars to restore it back into a functioning ride that people could have like parachute bench up and down rides on. So this was a big problem. And on the flip side, they couldn't just allow the tower to rot into the salt water, because if they did that, it would probably land on somebody's house. So instead, the city declared it a landmark, and then they did the bare minimum to keep the tower from not falling on anyone. They just like set aside a few $100s a year to like put bare minimum repairs on just the tower part of it. So that takes us back full circle to Six Flags. So in the 80s, I guess people were like nostalgic for actually riding the damn thing. So the one in Six Flags was built in the 80s as a throwback to the one in Coney Island, which had been broken at that time for over 30 years. Now, ironically, here we are again, 40 years later, and now the tower ride, designed to be a tribute to the broken irreparable tower ride, has itself become a broken irreparable tower ride. How you like them apples, huh? Weird. Now, surprisingly enough, I guess the ride has enough of a following that people are actually protesting that Six Flags has been lazy and has just allowed the thing to fall into disrepair. Maybe this protest will work, maybe Six Flags will change their mind and fix the damn thing, but nah, I don't think that's gonna work. Do you guys think that's gonna work? I don't think it's gonna work. So, like, I don't know. I know a lot of people have, like, their hearts set on getting the thing fixed, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I think to really get the thing fixed, I think they'd have to, like, start a GoFundMe and, like, raise $1 million for it. And then, like, if they did that, then they'd have to take all the money they'd raised and, like, find some sort of genius level machine repair guy who, like, has all these old parts from the 80s to fix the thing. Or, I don't know, just, like, use a 3D printer and, like, 3D print the parts, because 3D printers can print anything. Anyway, that's the story of the last two parachute drop rides in the country. And I guess they're now broken forever, which freaking sucks. Sorry to be a downer, guys, but that's the way it is. What do you guys think? Have you ever ridden the parachute ride? Were you as bemused of it as I was? Despite that, do you think it should be fixed? Do you want it to be torn down? Do you think it should just sit there like the one in Brooklyn doing nothing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, I really wish I could go to a theme park because it's winter here and I'm like freezing my butt off. But spring is just around the corner, and hopefully after that, things get back to being happy and joyous. Anyway, I'm me and Buster Green. I usually review anime and like, I don't know, video games, but lately things have been slow and I've been like very uninspired lately, so this is more of like a normal news story. But I don't know, I rode this thing once, so I felt like I had like a stake in it. Anyway, please subscribe. Please watch my videos for an hour today if you can. That would really help me out as a channel, because I'm still like 700 hours from being monetized. And yeah, thank you, that's what I need. Alright, see you guys next time. I'm out. Good night.